Hi there. Welcome to Commission Friends, where I talk to people we all know, but we can probably get to know a little better. On today's episode, we have Cam. How you doing?
I'm good. Excited to be here. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
first question would be, where did you grow up? What was your family like? What was your kind of childhood like? And one question I forgot to ask Sal was, did you play any sports growing up?
Yeah, so I grew up in a town called Salem, New Hampshire. It's about 30,000 people, right on the Mass border. I'm about 40 minutes north of Boston or so, 40 minutes east or west of the ocean, and then about an hour and a half south of the mountain. So really kind of unique area in that it's near a lot of very different things. Um, yeah, I grew up there. I lived there until I went off to Michigan, and now I'm back while I uh, while I'm working. And yeah, so I've got uh, my parents, and I have a younger brother who's a sophomore in college at a small school called Endicott in Massachusetts. And yeah, I played a lot of sports, or not a lot of sports, but I played soccer all growing up. I was an okay goalie, I like to think. Played some baseball. I was much less good at that, and I ran cross country and track all through high school.
Yeah, what position did you play for baseball?
Really just wherever they'd uh, all over. It was just little leagues. They played everyone everywhere. But I played a decent amount of outfield, which is where I guess a decent amount of center field because I wasn't that great, but I was quick and I paid enough attention that they were comfortable with me playing center field.
Nice. All right. So how did you get started playing fantasy sports?
Wow. So I kind of for a while I've been playing fantasy in some form. Uh, I guess going back, well, my dad played fantasy on Yahoo back as early as I could remember, like 03, 04. And I found not too long ago, I found one of his teams somehow, and it had like Scott Rowland and Alfonso Soriano on it. So it was kind of a fun look back in time. And then a few years later, I on sportsillustrated4kids.com, they had their own little fantasy thing. And it was, the type of fantasy where you have like a set budget and uh, you pick players that are within that budget and it's like points based and
You like daily?
yeah, kind
DFS?
of. Yeah, it's not really daily because it's you keep your team for the whole season. Although I guess you could, in theory, switch it around. It was made for like 8-year-olds, so
Oh yeah.
I don't yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how I started. I did that with baseball and football, uh, and then I was mostly baseball and football all growing up, and then some daily like mini games. I loved Streak for the Cash. I played that a bunch in through high school. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's basically picking various matchups and trying to get as many right in a row as possible.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Is that on ESPN?
yeah, yeah,
Like on the fantasy app, right?
right, yeah. It
Yeah.
used to be on its own app, and uh, I got 17 in a row once, which is one of my proudest achievements.
Nice.
Uh, and then yeah, I never did any sort of dynasty until I got to Michigan. So it was always something I never really considered, but once I started, it felt like a great fit, and I hit the ground running.
Yeah, for sure. So would you say baseball is your favorite fantasy sport?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, football is kind of like Sahil said, a little more, I guess, fluky and just not as it doesn't take as much knowledge or skill. Like I don't follow football at all, really, and I can normally go 500 or a little better in a fantasy football league.
Yeah.
Whereas in baseball, I really feel like it's challenging and I need to be putting together a good lineup every day and learning a lot about all these players. And it's been a ton of fun. And just kind of going through it and learning, especially about the prospects. I mean, as you know, that kind of has become my thing in the league, but becoming a prospect guy is a lot of fun and something you can really only do in baseball and maybe a little bit hockey.
Yeah, that's what makes baseball so much more fun. It's just the prospect and uh, part of it. So, did you enjoy the first years of the basketball and hockey leagues?
Yeah, they were fun. I mean, uh, yeah, hockey especially because I was doing pretty well for most of the season. Uh, they were a lot of fun. I wish I had paid more attention to the prospect side of the hockey thing. And as for basketball, it was mostly my brother Jackson running my team the entire time anyway, since he's the one who knows basketball and I don't. But it was still fun having a team, being part of the league, and just kind of helping out.
Yeah. So this is kind of a two-part question. How did you get to University of Michigan first, and then how did you become part of M-SABR?
Yeah, so it's funny actually. I grew up kind of not really a college sports fan, but when I did, I would root for Ohio State with my dad growing up in Cincinnati. That's how I became a Reds fan through him. And he kind of casually rooted for Ohio State. So I did the same. I was happy that they won in 2013 or whatever, the national championship. I had thought it was very funny that Michigan lost to Appalachian State. But yeah, always kind of when I started paying attention, figuring out what colleges I wanted to go to, Michigan, I did jump out to me as being a great school. I applied. I saw the programs. I was just really excited to visit the school. I got in. I was actually on a college visit at George Washington University when I found out that I got into Michigan. And I was very excited. I canceled my upcoming trip to Maryland because I knew Michigan was certainly a front runner, certainly over Maryland. And then I visited that February and just kind of fell in love with the campus. It was like 10 below and snow everywhere, but I figured it was still where I wanted to be. And yeah, and as for M-SABR specifically, I've been there since the very first meeting in the fall of 2016. I found back in that September or something, it was shortly after Festival, because I don't believe they had a table there, but I was walking kind of along South University. I was walking out of the Diag towards that corner where Ulrich's used to be, now Joe's Pizza, and I saw a flyer just kind of out the corner of my eye. That wasn't even a way I normally take. I don't know why I was going that way, but I saw a flyer for Sabermetrics Club, and it had Billy Stampful's phone number on it. And we didn't have a website or any sort of email address. It was totally bare bones, but I saw the flyer and it stood out to me. I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. I texted Billy. He said, cool, this is when our meeting is. There were like 8 people. It was Billy and Hunter and me and Zane and maybe 3 or 4 other people who didn't stick with it. And it was a ton of fun, and I've been with it ever since.
Yeah, you were a vice president at one point, right?
I was, yeah. I was. So my sophomore year, I got the role director of content and website or whatever the role was, and then my junior year, they gave a lot of the technical stuff on the website over to you, but I kept kind of the content role, and they gave me the vice president role. And then my senior year, they kind of got rid of the position of vice president, but I kept the director of content title.
Oh yeah, and you had your own Cam's Corner. Is that what it was called on the website?
Yeah, that was kind of briefly for some of my writing in particular, kind of with the Phil Koch stuff.
Yeah, Mike Trout Pecos League.
Yeah, basically that was before the Pecos League, I think, but I believe it was Max Smith's idea. He said, let's do Cam's Corner with Cam's writing. There was a meeting towards the end of my freshman year in terms of what to do with the website, and with Zane, Billy, Max, and Hunter, and they were kind enough to invite me to it. And yeah, that's where Cam's Corner came from.
Nice. All right, next question would be, what is your favorite hobby outside of fantasy in sports?
Yeah, so I'm really big into hiking. Up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, there are just a bunch of amazing trails and mountains. There are 48 mountains over 4,000 feet. And if you're from out west, that doesn't sound like super high, but kind of in terms of prominence, it's very similar the mountains are very similar to some of the Western mountains, and the trails are very challenging and pretty and often difficult. And a lot of hikers have set a goal to climb all 48 of them. I have done 28 so far, and it's a ton of fun. And I love getting up to the mountains and just going on a 10 to 15 mile hike and being part of the wild. It's you can't beat it.
Yeah, it's cool. When the pandemic started and I moved back here, I never even thought of like going in the woods behind my house, but last summer and like recently I've been like biking back there. Yeah, I like started to like nature a lot more too. And
That's awesome.
we'd listen to podcasts while I bikes, a lot of sports ones, obviously the pitcher and the hitter a lot too.
That's awesome. Do you have like a ton of woods behind your house?
Yeah, it's decently big, but I could go like for an hour and I'd hit like maybe half of the trail, maybe not even that, maybe a third. But yeah,
Sounds amazing.
yeah, it's pretty fun. All right, so I know you're big in the music chat, right? So next will be, well, I guess we're doing music first. What are you listening to right now?
Ooh, that's a very big question, I guess. I guess right now I've been going through a big Fleet Foxes kick ever since they put out an album last fall that's kind of been my anthem throughout the winter, and they've kind of, I guess, just kind of been going through them a lot. They're great, very. I don't really know how to describe them. Kind of warm and folky, but not like in a country way. And I've been listening to a lot of Death Cab, a lot of REM. Weezer put out a good album a couple months ago that I like. I haven't really been keeping up a ton with the stuff that's come out this year, but yeah, that's basically what I've been listening to lately. Yeah.
Yeah. What about podcast size? Do you listen to a lot of those?
Yeah, I listen to a few podcasts. Effectively Wild, of course, one of my favorites. And then I'm also big into Comedy Bang Bang, just a independent comedy podcast, kind of offbeat improv stuff, and it's really funny. It makes me laugh.
All right, and important question: what speed do you listen to podcasts on?
Normal speed.
Of course. Like most people do that. I know at one point, I know you probably heard I listened at twice speed. At one point I saw on Spotify that they have a 3 times speed option, so I tried that just for a bit, but that was too fast for me.
I can't. I can do 1.5 sometimes if it's something I'm not paying super close attention to, but 2 is too much, and I can't even imagine doing 3.
All right. So what about TV shows? Do you watch like a lot of those, and what are you watching right now?
Yeah, so I've I guess my favorite show, a few favorite shows. I love Arrested Development, Parks and Rec, 30 Rock, one of my favorites. I love Community. I know someone was talking about it. It was either in the Slack or on this podcast.
Yeah.
My favorite is probably The Simpsons. I've watched all of the classic episodes, half a dozen or more times. And there's kind of a debate about which ones are the classic ones. I would say seasons 2 through 8 or 9 are probably where I would agree. And they are on season 32 right now. So there's a lot of terrible episodes. And me and my dad have kind of made a point of going through and watching from the beginning to the end, including the terrible ones, which make up 2/3 of them. And we're in season 24 right now, and it's just really, really miserable. But yeah, other than that, I'm waiting for Better Call Saul to come back, and I believe that's everything I've been watching.
Yeah, it's crazy that Simpsons are still going. I know when I was in middle school or maybe before that, that was my favorite show at one point. So
yeah, and I mean, calling the recent ones terrible is kind of an oversimplification, but really, I mean, the ones from the 90s can't be beat.
Oh yeah. All right. So you graduated a year ago, right?
Hmm.
So, and then what are you doing right now?
Yeah, so after I graduated, I was just kind of looking for work. I was driving DoorDash on the side while I was looking, and then I got a job. It started at the beginning of January for Fidelity Investments, the investment company. And I'm mostly just kind of helping people with finance stuff while they teach me about finance stuff.
Hmm.
So it's not, I guess, the most exciting thing, and it's not what I want to be doing particularly, but they're good to me. The benefits are kind of amazing, and it feels like a good stepping stone. It is a big company, and I did get a I did major in stats, and they do have a lot of opportunities in data analysis that I can kind of work my way into.
Nice. So you want to eventually be a data analyst with the same company, or what do you want to do long term?
I mean, long term, I mean, the dream was always to work in the analytics department of a major league team. That kind of is looking less and less realistic. But working as some sort of analyst with that company or really anywhere, because it's such a, I mean, you can use a degree like that in any field.
Yeah,
If anyone wants an analyst. So really anywhere that'll have me.
yeah, nice. Me too. Um, yeah. So I guess the last couple things, or the one Sahil suggested at the end of his, your favorite Michigan memory and favorite Michigan places to eat.
Hmm. Uh, that's tough. I mean, a lot of great memories at Michigan. I'll start, I guess, with the M-SABR related ones. Of course, of course, the inaugural fantasy draft, the one where we stayed up till 2:30 a.m. The first Gallardo party at Sahil's apartment, an amazing time. I believe, was that the one where you found yourself
Yep.
on the side of the road the next morning?
Yep.
Yeah, that's how you know it's a great party.
Yeah, that was it's the craziest night ever.
Oh my God. Yeah, Zane had a few good parties too. I distinctly remember uh, one, I believe it was a Christmas party. Me and Zane sang the entirety of "Is This It," the album by The Strokes.
The whole
It's like the whole album, every song. He played guitar, I sang. He also sang, but we did the whole thing. No breaks. Well, like Greg and Sahil were playing Mario Super Sluggers. That's one of my favorite memories. Outside of M-SABR, I mean, there was the first time I went to karaoke, the karaoke place next to Rick's. I went back in last October or maybe November. I keep saying last October, but I guess it was 2 Octobers ago. It's weird losing an entire year. But yeah, I went with a group of friends from work, and that kind of was the first time I hung out with them outside of work, and they became, I guess, my closest friends. Uh, and then I had a party at my house. You went to the place me and Greg went, right? You've been
yeah,
over there.
few
Yeah, so
times.
you know the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the roof is amazing. For those of you who don't know, there's a it's a really terrible apartment. Just kind of falling apart, on a slant, really dumpy. But there's a fire escape through the bathroom that leads onto the roof, uh, and and that roof is like one of the best places to host a small party of 5 or 6 people, as we found out. Really nice, especially on a warm night. And I had a few people over on the last night before everything was closed, or I guess the last night before most people went home due to COVID. And it was just a really amazing night. We stayed out until, well, we stayed there until midnight. We went and walked around for a while, popped into Hopcat briefly for another drink that we had to pay for, even though I don't know why we did that, but just walked around, went to Poncheras, and then hung out in the Ugly until like 5:30 a.m. just talking and not wanting to leave. And just one of my favorite nights. It was my and one of my last nights in Ann Arbor.
That sounds pretty cool. All right, just going back real quick. What was your go-to karaoke song?
Oh God, so many. I mean, Piano Man is a classic.
Yeah.
I did the Monster Mash. I did, which was very funny. Makes Me Wonder by Maroon 5 is a kind of a low-key, great karaoke song. And then, other than that, the other ones I was probably too drunk to remember, but there are a lot of good ones. At the place next to Rick's, you get a room to you and a group of you, so you get that you pay by the hour, so you can just do a bunch of karaoke songs in a row. And you're allowed to bring outside alcohol in, which is very nice.
Nice. Yeah. Is that place? It used to be like a house or something.
Yeah, I think so. It feels like a house. It's got like multiple stories and kind of, yeah, from the outside looks like, yeah, just someone's house.
I think I walked by there. Must have been like a million times, but never went in there. But maybe should have. But yeah,
I recommend it.
Yeah, favorite places to eat on campus.
Well, Sawhill kind of took most of my favorite ones. Yeah, Frida Petitos, of course. I believe Sahil wanted me to tell the story about the last time he took me to Frida Petitos.
Oh yeah.
Sean Doolittle just gave up a home run. Oh no, he got it. But anyway, so Sahil flies in from North Carolina. I go to pick him up because he's staying on my futon, and as kind of a measure of thanks for picking him up from the airport and giving him a place to stay, he took me to Frida Petitos, his treat, and I was very excited. I was going to eat something, whatever I normally eat there, beef petito with cheese and stuff, just the normal stuff. And he said, no, you're going to go all out. So he made me order like a fried egg on it and just all of the fixins. And it was a mistake. It was too much food for 1 PM. I'm going to spare the gross details, but it did not sit very well in my stomach. And my stomach is still a little messed up from that, maybe.
Oh, geez.
But it was too much food, and he, in other ways, I guess, tried to kill me that weekend. The night you, me, and him tried to go to Skeeps, and then ended up at Rick's and got turned away because they thought our IDs were fake. The morning after that, I was driving him back to the airport, and I had to pull over because I suddenly couldn't feel my face. Very weird. Just kind of weird hangover thing. Suddenly couldn't feel my face. We had to stop for 10 to 15 minutes. I was able to get back onto the road and drop him off at the airport, thankfully, but just I was in rough shape at the end of that weekend.
Jeez. All right, so I think that was all I had. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
I mean, I guess a few other restaurants I wanted to shout out. Pita Kebab, Sahil mentioned. I love Amer's, the deli. Very good food there. I will shout out, No Thai, of course. One of the best. And BTB.
Oh, yeah.
Great 2 a.m. place if you want a burrito.
That was my favorite.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and Poncheros, of course, a great burrito any time of day. And I believe that's everything. Every place I wanted to shout out.
Nice. Yeah, went down Arbor like a week ago to like take pictures and stuff for graduation, and I had B2B for the first time like 1.5 years or something. It was amazing. I love their quesadillas.
Oh, I'm jealous. Yeah, they're good. They, for a while, I guess over the summer, I was back for a couple weeks, and they were selling BTB out of Chuck's out of Charlie's.
Yeah, I
So
think
that
that's
was,
where they moved permanently.
oh, they're permanently there, really?
I think they're owned by the same person or something. So yeah, it's just that little hut now.
That makes sense. I mean, they do make better food than Charlie's ever did.
All right. All right. Yeah. So anything else?
No, I think that's
Yeah.
everything I had to say.
All right. Yeah, well, yeah, thanks a lot for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. It was great. I love the show and excited to be a part of it.
All right. Yeah. So next week we're gonna have Zane on. So stay tuned.